whereas this whole thing has been about dreams. This last dream in particular had reminded me of an experience that I think is worth sharing and is relevant because it is a dream-like state, and that is my experience with salvia. Salvia, like CaleaBonusfeature1, if I haven't mentioned this already, is, as far as the date of my usage, 100% legal. There is nothing illegal about it. The difference is, also salvia is a Central American plant used by some of the same tribes that utilize the CaleaBonusfeature1. So it does kind of tie in with history of use. Salvia, some people have heard about in the news. It's getting a lot of flack right now, precisely because it is such an intense experience, and it's not something I recommend to people necessarily. The way I put it is, it was absolutely frightening, but I'm glad it happened because it showed me things that I couldn't have even guessed were possible. I used a 5 extract, and it goes up to like 160, which I think is nuts. I can't imagine that. I'll skip over the process. It's kind of involved. It's not as easy as just rolling it in cigarette paper or smoking it out of like a pipe. It's not that easy to get the full desired effects. But essentially, I was in a room with 4 people, and we all took turns doing having our experience, and I went last. Everybody's experience was absolutely different, and that's what I found so amazing about it. My one friend laughed at us the entire time, which was only about 15 minutes, and like cracked up hysterically and had no memory of anything. He had a complete blackout. His brain didn't let him retain anything. He had entered the void and brought nothing back with him. My other friend, he was completely dazed out of it, drooling at one point, but not because he wasn't paying attention. He was so focused inwardly, and that's what happens during these experiences, is you get kind of pulled into a different realm of focus. In his experience, he had the sensation that he became a box, and that he saw his hands and feet as the corners, and we were on his fingertips as like the card people from Alice in Wonderland, and like card body and have our faces on it. And the box opened, and he was in like a parking lot, or field or something like that. And those were the 2 most notable experiences aside from mine. It set in about 30 to 45 seconds after I inhaled all the smoke, and you need a lot of it in your system very quickly. And this is the reason this plant has not been aware. It hasn't been in the public consciousness until very recently, actually the early 90s, because of the traditional use has to do only with packing your lip full of the wet leaves, or smoking the dried leaves, and these things are not nearly as powerful as the extract, and when you smoke them without getting a lot into your system, and without burning it hotter with like say a butane lighter as opposed to a regular lighter, you will not get the same effect. It's very mild, and it's very stretched out. So I inhaled, exhaled. About 45 seconds later it set in, and I saw in front of me the world, which is a couple of my friends, and the wall split into foreground and background, and I felt this sensation of being pulled to my right side, and the background and the foreground were changing, but they were changing at different speeds. I believe the background was going faster, if I remember correctly. What I describe it as is going through different dimensions, different like combinations, permutations of possibility. That's exactly what it felt like. Um, and like in you know this world, my friend looks like he does. Normally, in the you flip one over, he kind of looked like conical and striped. It was like a candy cane pattern, red and white, and then it was black and white, and then it was something else. Then he didn't even look like that anymore. But the main objects were still there. The background, it was like a wall, it was a fence, it was a field, it was something else. But the reason I was in each place changed. For instance, in this basal reality, I had just smoked salvia. In the next place, I was at a market getting oranges or something. And some of these places did in fact feel what I would say is alien. Not like different time periods, but different like planets perhaps, or different versions of what this planet is. That's the only way I can really describe it. But both the background and the foreground began picking up speed. It eventually got to the point where it was all blur and I couldn't see anything specific anymore. I remember as I was going down into this like vortex that was speeding up, I tried to dictate what would I tried to influence what I was seeing by saying in my head like penguin, oranges, whatever, and it wasn't working. I had this my train of thought, which I could still pay attention to, trying to throw objects into the scenery, and it wasn't working. Nothing was showing up. It was just all its own thing. Like it took me and took me for a ride. But why this is relevant, if I hadn't made it clear before, is that it felt the same as that dream I had last night. It in a sense, the dream wasn't as up close and like vivid, but it was the closest thing I've ever got through dreaming to this same sensation. It felt cinematic, and it felt like sort of like super well done CGI. Like it felt even more real than normal reality. Like instead of focusing on how your eyes normally focus, every single little detail was apparent without focus. It was like everything was in sharp focus. And a strange thing happened. Even though this is a 15-minute process, give or take, it felt like an eternity, because there's time dilation involved. You don't experience time the same way normally, or at least that is one of the attributes that you may stumble upon. Not everybody has the same experience, and guaranteed person to person is different, and every time you have one of these experiences, they're also significantly different. You can't have the same one twice. And so in this particular time, there was time dilation. It felt like I was in there for years. And then when I came out, it all started slowly coming back to me. I didn't pull out everything, all the bits of information, but I did remember as much as I'm relating now.